Guys, 820 and 821 is going to talk about cash dividends. It's going to talk about stock dividends, and it's going to talk about stock splits. So let's just have a quick discussion through these problems so you don't get too confused with this. In A on 820, we have 14,000 shares now that we're holding, and we are getting paid typically on those shares $1.68 for a cash dividend on those shares, keep in mind. So what this problem does is sort of gives you an idea of how issuing a stock dividend may have, an effect on your analysis of how much cash dividends you may or may not want to pay. So what they do is they say, look, in the first A here, 14,000 shares, let's issue a 5% dividend. This is a stock dividend, guys, keep in mind. So that's equals 700 dividends. So all of a sudden, the shareholders who have 14,000 now have 14,700. Well, if you look at then how much, right, if you wanted to keep the amount of cash dividend the same with 14,700 shareholders outstanding instead of 14,000, then you could just take $1.68 and divide it by 1, which is the amount of shares that you had outstanding, which is 14,000, and then the 5% increase, right? And you divide it by that and you get $1.60. So look, if you took 14,000 shares and you multiply it times $1.68, you would be paying cash dividends of $23,520. Well, if you give them the extra shares of stock, then you're going to have 14,700 shares out there. So let's multiply that times 160 and get the same amount. So if you wanted to keep the dividends, cash dividend amount the same, then you would pay them 160 instead of 168. And that's all B is trying to ask you and test your knowledge of, okay? Now, in C, it says, well, what if? What if we want to go ahead and pay them the $1.68? Well, if we do that, then we will pay them $24,696. Well, then it says, well, what if again? It says, what if we take the $24,696 and we just don't give them a stock dividend? So we have the 14,000 shares. Well, we would have to pay them then $1.76.4 per share than if we did not issue the stock dividend. So guys, if we can issue, remember, cash dividends increase each year, and we can also issue dividends for stock dividends. We can issue both, and if we increase both at the similar rate, then you would not change your cash dividend per share amount very much at all. So that's kind of what D is asking you here. It's just interesting, the analysis that you may have to go through. This keeping it really, really simple, guys. But I just wanted you to be aware that how stock dividend kind of affects, that might be, how does that affect cash dividends and how do they interact with one another? And that gives you just a little taste of that. Down 400 shares, and all of a sudden the company gave a 2-for-1 stock split. If you own one share, you're suddenly going to own 2, right? And often the market price would be about half then as much. Now, often, guys, as soon as you have a stock split, often the price of your stock will actually go up a little bit. It'll inflate. For example, if you cut it from $300 down to $150, all of a sudden, the stocks that are 150 are worth about 151, 152. And the reason that they are is because suddenly you are dropping your stock's price down, right, in half, so that attracts more investors. right? So sometimes your stock price gets so high that you don't attract new investors, and new investors like to buy in groups of 100 shares at a time. So those people, then more people would be able to buy your stock then if it was half the price. So that's why companies have a tool to go ahead and basically dilute their stock somewhat by going ahead and issuing a stock split. Okay, so they officially do that. And what I want you to realize is I want you to understand how the issuance of cash dividends, the issuance of stock dividends, and the issuance of stock splits, how they affect the amounts that are on the statement of changes in owner's equity, how they're presented on the statement of changes in owner's equity, and what effects do they have overall on the equity in your company, right? So you want to be aware of those three things as you finish studying this chapter.